If you are like me and know that America is the greatest opportunity in the world, but you also see there are huge issues starting to arise, like why is socialism and secularism increasing in popularity? Why do patriots like us that love America feel that America's true values are being eroded? And how do people like us start financially supporting companies and organizations that align with our own values and that can impact America's future? These are the blaring questions that we are facing, and this podcast will show how real patriots on fire are waging war and reigniting America's patriotism, and how you can join the movement. Follow this podcast and become a patriot on fire.
Good day, fellow patriots. Hey guys, I thank you so much for tuning in to Patriots on Fire podcast. So obviously many of you know our story from listening to some of our podcasts. So when I was starting to actually research, because I really wanted to create this and I want to figure out this, this Patriots on Fire movement. What are we? What do we stand for? And what is our future cause that we're fighting for? And I guess really the big questions is, that many of us are kind of struggling with is like, why in the world is socialism and secularism increasing in popularity in our generation? So when I was younger, and I guess maybe if you are following our Experience More Today page, Facebook, where we host all of our fellow patriots, it's our community of other fellow patriots. I guess what's really intriguing is when I was younger, I guess when I was in high school during the Obama administration, I saw what the country was becoming, and I saw decisions that we were making, and to be quite frank, I felt afraid because I saw where that was going to lead. And I felt very sad. Because I truly asked myself, is this it? Is this our path to socialism? The media wants you to think that there are no more Republicans out there. There's nobody else that stands for American principles and values anymore. There's no one that stands for the Constitution of freedom, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and nobody stands for we the people. It's just we the government, we the government, we the government. And of course, some of us could say, well, Christian, you're naive and, you're just in high school and you graduated. But it was something that was devastating in my heart because I truly saw that, someday I'll build a family, someday I'll have this stuff. And I don't want it to be taken away. I don't want to be sitting there and idly stand by and just watch this happen. And I guess really that's kind of what this podcast is about is, I'm now 26 years of age. I run a business, and I guess, before it was I just was running businesses, and I was, I'm part of the Air Force National Guard, and I had a job there, and I guess, I went through day life, and I thought, what, if I just retweeted Donald Trump's, tweets, then I'm good to go. I'm doing my duty, and the number one patriotic thing to do is go vote. And so you go to the election every year and vote and share your opinion. And I started realizing that, I guess, from this last election that was 2016, I stopped in my tracks, and there are a few things that really stopped me in my tracks and realized that there are very large powers that we cannot see that are working behind the scenes. And what I mean by that is, there are very powerful people in the world that lead us down these paths that are incorrect. And one of those powers would be the media. To see that literally they were just very blatant, and it's become more blatant about their disgust and dislike with the conservatives and the patriots that made this country great. To see the disgust that they have for this president, whether you agree with him or not, you have to just stand back and say, wow, this is very biased. It's very sad to see that. to see this massive disgust. And then I always ask myself, why is it? Why did they dislike him so much? Why did they dislike so many conservatives? And really the biggest question is, why are there more liberal media outlets than there are conservative outlets? Why are there more liberal companies than there are conservative companies that stand up for values? And, my heart was broken. And I asked myself, what could a 26-year-old guy do? What is the thing that I could do that really could impact? Yeah, sure, I could make some money. Sure, I could go knock on doors, but, I could go make some phone calls, but it's like, it's not that. That's not what they need. That's not what people need. What people need are the next generation. And I looked at my generation, and I'm afraid for my dad and my mom's generation to my generation. I mean, you see things that are just, I never thought would even take place. To sit there and literally stand by and watch. I'm very anti-socialist because I understand what socialism stands for. I understand what socialism is. And I'm not naive when that comes to it. And even a large portion of my family, that some of them are maybe more on the left side, but they're not socialists. And I guess really I look at life and I look at these situations, and it's incredible. And I stop and I say, is this really our future? Is this really what we're going to be going down? And the biggest thing that I always remember that keeps me going, to keep me fighting, is one, never quit. We can go out there and overcome this. I truly believe we can build the next generation of leaders, men and women that are making character-based decisions and integrity-based decisions. I truly believe that. Actually, when and where I stopped and I realized that I could actually do something was I was running a business at that time in a financial firm. And I went into my dad's office and kind of like worn out. And we were just going to sit there and talk about politics because, I just love talking to my parents about politics because it's like, just being able to understand and get their perspective on it. But I came in kind of defeated, and I just was like, man, I saw what was going on. And this was when I was probably 24, 25-ish. And I just was, I was just defeated. And I walked in, and my dad was on the phone call with someone, so I thought I'd let him finish up. But what was really interesting was my dad was on a phone call with a businessman, and they were sitting there and having a conversation about, $200 or $250. And I remember this so distinctly because this is the day that I learned something new about patriotism. My dad was faced with $200 and $250. Everything else was the same. The product, the service. The only thing that was different was the company. And my dad, without a hesitation, chose the $250. And I'm over here like, why would you do that, my friend? That's more money, right? I mean, to me, that just made logical sense. More money, less money, go for the less money. So I let him finish up the phone call. He hung up. And I asked him, Dad, are you crazy? Like, what? Why did you decide the 200? I mean, everything else was the same. It's the same product, man. Just go for the $200. Thinking, I know better, right? My dad, very seriously, stopped everything he did, looked me in the eye and said, Christian, the number one patriotic thing that anybody can do is vote. Go to the elections and vote. To use what America has given us. But he looked at me and said, Christian, the second thing that a true patriot can do is something that we do every single day, but we do not even think about it. We vote with our money. And he looked me in the eye and said, Christian, today, I had a choice. The guy that owned the other company that was less expensive actually is a man named George Soros that wants to see the demise of America. That stands for principles and values that I do not stand for. With the most serious look in his eye, he said, "Today, I voted for America's success." And man, I still get those chills and those feelings because it's like, oh my gracious, I knew what he was talking about. And so I basically got up, and we sat there for a little while and talked, but I basically got up and I went all the way home. I started looking at my bank account, I started looking at my checking account, and I started realizing, my gracious, I love America, and I am spending all this money to organizations, to companies, to media, to everybody that stands for values that I do not stand for, that stands for principles that I do not stand for. And I stopped in my tracks and I realized that is the reason why you have more liberal media organizations, why you have more liberal universities, that you have more liberal organizations and companies out there. Now, I realized, though, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't our fault that all of the other patriots are doing the same thing, because I realized that it's ingrained, these companies are so entwined with our daily life that it's hard to not spend it on these organizations. And I guess that's my epiphany. That was when I said, you know what? I'm just tired. I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of seeing my family, my friends, my generation be indoctrinated by these socialistic, secular ways. I'm tired of seeing companies don't standing up for values and principles anymore that I agree with. And there are questions that I asked. Why in the world are we seeing such massive movements on socialism? To me, it's just, I don't understand. Why is my generation loving socialism so much? I don't know, there's some sort of research behind it and saying, well, they just remember the times during 2008, 2009 when the massive crash and the financial markets were destroying, and they saw their parents and they said, I never want to do that. And so they went more of the socialistic ways. And there's other different research that says that, but it's like, to me still, it's this whole concept that's like, are we serious? And I guess, someone asked me the other day, actually they didn't ask me, it was something that I heard, and they said, do you think that the next generation is prepared to take the torch of liberty and carry it on to generation after generation? And I sat there and I thought, man, I don't know if my generation is ready. From my dad's generation to my generation, to carry on the liberty, to carry on what America stands for, I'm not sure. And some of the things that I'm struggling with, those are kind of just some of the things that I struggle with, those questions that can we truly make an impact? And then it was so awesome to see 2016 happen. And I see, some people just don't agree with the president, and I understand, but it's like, I don't understand, to be honest with you, because if you're a Christian and you're conservative and you love America, you start realizing maybe not the man himself, but you start realizing the people that he surrounds himself with consistently. He's surrounding himself by individuals that have Christian biblical principles, constitutional, what America stands for. And I don't know, you just look at life and you start realizing that, okay, hey, you know what he's done, and he's putting so many different judges in the court systems that have conservative backgrounds, that stand up for America, true constitutional principles. That's when I started realizing, Christian, And I started talking to myself basically as a Christian. This is possible. But you need to do something. I could sit back and I could, just still be in my own little corner, run a business, and do fine with what I'm doing. But I said, Christian, I'm so torn. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to sit back and do nothing. I want to go out there and impact and truly make a difference. To inspire others to change. And I really do believe, man, I really do that. I really believe that we can literally raise the next generation of men and women that are making character-based decisions, that are making integrity-based decisions, that is doing what is right and not what feels right. And as a person that just goes through life, and I started really realizing that, you know what, I'm 26 years of age, and I struggle with this. Like, how could I really add value to other people that are older than me, that are older? But then I realized that it's just an age. Whether you're 35, whether you're 22, it doesn't matter. In today's world, you can go out there and you may know a tremendous amount, and you can start sharing it with the other people. And I guess that's what got me ignited. And I realized, when I started looking for Patriots on Fire, I literally started Googling it, and I started seeing, are there other podcasts about this? Are there other, YouTube channels, or what's out there? And the only thing, every time I kept putting Patriots on Fire, every time I literally put that in there, guess what it would come up? The New England Patriots. And they would start coming up with all sorts of different articles, or different videos, different content, specifically for New England Patriots. And I'm over here realizing that is also part of the reason why. That is also part of the reason why we have massive socialism and secularism in our increasing in popularity. Because none of us are standing up. I shouldn't say none of us. We don't have a one path. We don't have one place where we can come together and we can learn and educate and bring that out and start inspiring others to change. And that's part of the reason why we developed this podcast, because I started realizing that there's a massive need. There's a massive, huge need for this. And all I ask is that, you join our movement. You join our Patriots on Fire movement to reignite America's patriotism. To realizing that there is a possibility, that there is hope in the future. I look at what Trump has put in, and ladies and gentlemen, this is just the foundation. We were at a precipice. We were at a point in the road of 2016 where we could go down this way of socialism and secularism and tremendous amount of backwards thinking. Or we could go out there and move forward and go and find the way of America principles and America values and what America stands for in the world. And now what I've realized is, now that the president has put in so many different judges, 40 years worth of, it's incredible that I realize that we as the conservative, we as the Patriots on Fire movement, we need to start educating our generation. Those that are older need to start helping us educate the younger generation. Use some of your wisdom, your knowledge, your understanding, the history that you've gone through. And please, share it with us. Those that are middle-aged, guys, stand up. Start going out there and supporting different organizations and different systems and different media outlets that actually share your values. Make those intentional decisions. How passionate are you about America? And you start realizing that we have it at our grasp. And every single day we're losing little bits, but I also do realize that we keep gaining a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And I start realizing we can put the basis, the base is developed, and all we need to start doing is building on top of that base. This isn't the time not to sit by and just say, okay, we did it. We did an election. No, now is the time to sit there and say, you know what? We must cut off the snake's head. And how do we do that? Not by going out there on the streets and going picketing and fencing and going, making a whole bunch of noise. No, it's the thing that we do every single day without even knowing it. We take our money, we start spending it toward conservative things, towards values and companies that we believe in. My inspiration behind this kind of concept was when I was in Chick-fil-A and I started realizing what was it that caused them to totally dominate that industry. Was it because of customer service? Sure, that's part of it. Was it because of good food? Sure, that's part of it. But the number one thing was because they stood for values and things that they were bigger than all of us. And so I restructured our company. I'm so pumped up because I started realizing that, my generation, and I'm so young. And I stopped and I said, I need to restructure my business, and that's what we've done. I won't talk about it much here, but that was my epiphany. I stopped and I said, you know what? I need to restructure my own business. I need to do things to really help others, to serve others, to stand up fearlessly for values that we really truly can believe that are directly impacting different organizations and systems that help lead the next generation. And I guess I really want to just stop it here and say, you know what? I believe there is hope for America. That what this president has done is put into play this incredible situation. He's put in these judges that are in the court systems, and what that means is now we have to build the base. And what does that look like? Well, the next step would be is to start changing your patterns. I shouldn't even say changing your patterns. It's just it's literally buying the same product but from different company, and companies that stand up for values. And we're working with a whole bunch of different other companies that we're going to be sending out shortly of media things and so forth that you can actually go and find and buying your products from companies that actually stand for your values and that impact this larger cause. And the next step after that would be teaching and educating. Because what I realize is that we always have to think forefront. We can't think hindsight, we have to think forefront. And we realize that we teach this next generation. And I really do believe that we don't need a majority of followers. We don't need followers. We need a minority of leaders that stand up. And so we partner with several organizations that we're giving a portion of all of our profits. Anything that we make from servicing all of you with our great products, we're servicing, and we take portion of our profits, a large portion of our profits, and send it to these organizations that we're proudly standing by. And both of these organizations go out there and teach and educate the next generation. They're not sitting there picket fencing and being loud, but they're going out there and action-oriented, and they're creating results. And leading the next generation, having the next generation of congressmen and women that are going in there and that have principles, Christian principles, that have American values in their heart and in their mind, and they go out there and start leading this country. Like I said, we don't need a majority of followers. We don't need followers. We need leaders that stand up and say, I'm a patriot on fire, and I'm willing to do what's necessary for my kids and for futures unborn, for generations unborn. Thank you so much for following. If you're not following our Experience More podcast, definitely go ahead and click on that Experience. You like it, you want to follow it, make it one of your favorites. Also, find us on Facebook, Experience More Today. And guys, I just want to leave you with this. That you must act. You must pray and you must act. Go out there and be a patriot on fire and reignite America's patriotism. Thank you.